I'm now going to show you how to do the bee, so you can see from the key which sections are yellow and which sections are black, but it's basically just the head is black and then it's kind of striped all the way down. It doesn't really matter if you do the black or the yellow first, it's up to you. I've done the black first, not for any specific reason, just because I like to put the legs down first, because then this cruel wool can kind of like just sit on top of them a little bit, which I think looks really nice. So I just kind of did those first and continued with the black and added the yellow after, but it's completely up to you. So again, these are satin stitch, so you're going to be doing exactly the same thing again as you've done on the flowers, if you've started with the flowers, but again you could start with the bee. So we're gonna start in the middle to help with our direction. So this one, the direction of the whole bee is gonna go straight upwards, and that's just because that's the way that he's sitting on the page. So we're gonna fill this section in here black. So I'm gonna start by bringing the needle up on the outline line about in the middle, and then I'm gonna go up, straight up, to create that angle in the middle, and then you can basically just continue along the line. So we're gonna come up next to where we started our first stitch. So remember, it's almost like a loop, so you're coming up through the fabric, down, up, down, and it's kind of going round and round and round, and that's just to get like even coverage on the front and on the back. So we're gonna go down next to our first stitch like that, and you're basically just going to continue along until you've completed this line. So the really important thing with this bee is that you've actually got lots of lines that are touching each other, so it's really important that when you're fitting the sections together, that when you're going down at the top or the bottom, whichever side you're kind of touching the next row of stitching, it's really important that you meet that row of stitching, otherwise you're going to end up with white sections in between your black and your yellow. If this does happen and you do get little kind of white lines in between, don't worry, it's not a problem. You can either like undo the stitches as you kind of do them, as you see the white showing, or if you would like to, you could do the back stitch either in the yellow or in the black. I'd say probably the black would look best, but you can actually add a line of back stitch in between the black and the yellow stripes, and that will just mean that it will cover up all the edges of your satin stitch, so you don't need to worry at all about having those showing. So that's completely up to you, but that's just kind of something extra that you can do if you feel like you need it. So yeah, I'm just gonna continue stitching across this little section here, and then we'll pick up on the other side of this once I've got to the end. Okay, you can now see how, now that I'm getting to the edge, I just wanted to show you how to get the nice rounded edge of the bee. So up until now you can see that the stitches that I've made have gone right from the bottom right to the top, so they've filled that whole section, but you can now see from the outline that it sort of curves around, so your stitches they're not going to continue at this same line that you've created. They're going to start staggering a little bit. So if you continue doing exactly the same thing, all you're going to do to make it different is, rather than starting your stitch in line, you're going to come up a little bit to where you can see the outline, and you're still going to go up through this hole at the top. And you can see how I'm just kind of staggering the stitches to follow that outline that you can see. That just helps you to get that nice curve. Okay, so you can now see how that's kind of nicely curved around the edge there. So we're going to do exactly the same, but we're going to do it in this direction this time. So you may find, like I have, that you've run out of thread. That's absolutely fine. You can just tie it off on the back and start a brand new piece. Okay, I've now finished this section of black, so I'm going to show you how to do the yellow, and it works in exactly the same way. It's just with your crewel wool. So it's with shade 474, which is this nice yellowy colour, and it's going to work in exactly the same way. So just tie off your black thread on the back and get your yellow threaded up with a knot in the end. Okay, so for this yellow section, we're going to start in the middle again, going again straight upwards in terms of our direction. So you can see on this band, we're actually stitching in between two different lines. So we need to make sure that when we're coming up through the fabric and when we're going down through the fabric, that we're meeting the stitches on either side to avoid getting that white line of fabric in between. We're going to come do exactly the same as we did before. So you're going to come up through your next to your first stitch and down next to it as well. So you're just creating a big long line of stitches that all sit side by side to just fill the shape with the colour. So you're going to continue all the way to the end, and again you can see from the outline that it kind of curves around a little bit at the bottom, so you just need to make sure that when you're stitching you adjust to follow that curve. So you can see that I've now reached the end with the yellow section, so we're going to do exactly the same from the centre out to this side. So we can use that central stitch that we made right at the beginning as our guideline for the direction and angle of our stitch. So we're going to come up right next to it and go down right next to it to create a stitch that lies there. And then you're just going to carry on doing that all the way till you've reached this section here. So I've now finished this line and you can see kind of how they're all sitting nicely together and how you've got the really nice contrast between the stranded cotton and the crewel wool. So I'm just going to actually take this out of here so you can kind of see. So if you have a look, you can sort of see the different levels of it. So you can see how much more the wool kind of stands out compared to the stranded cotton. The cotton's really shiny compared to the wool, which is really dull. And it also gives it this kind of furry texture, which is really nice as well. So you've now finished, I've shown you kind of everything on the bee and how to do the flowers. So the next thing I'm going to show you is how to attach beads. So I'm going to show you that now.